Alright, what's going on, guys? Got another breakdown for UFC 286. Sorry for the delay on picks this week. There's going to be a couple cards probably until like mid-April where I just don't have the hours because I'm transitioning from one job to the other right now, and it's been taking up a fair amount of my time, and I only like to do picks if I can do my due diligence on fight tape. So, I'd love to be able to do more or less the full card and eventually the full card every week, and we'll get there. But just for right now, there's going to be a couple cards where I can only do like 5 or 6 per week, and unfortunately, it's been the pay per views. But with that little update aside, we'll just get into this one. In middleweight fight, we got Christian Leroy Duncan making his UFC debut against Dusko Todorovic. These guys are about the same age and about even on physicals as well. So I guess I'll start with Dusko Todorovic, the known commodity. Been more or less a win one, lose one guy in the UFC to this point. The wins aren't over the highest level of opponent, but they have been stoppages. Jordan Wright, Maki Pitolo, and Daquan Townsend. The losses are respectable, all power punchers. Punahele Soriano, Gregory Rodriguez, and Chidi Njokuani. Just kind of got outworked in all of those fights. The thing I don't like about Patola or Todorovic, I'll start with the downsides, is when he falls back, he leaves his chin straight up, and he's gotten caught in a couple of these fights with that. He's just not very defensive minded, but he's definitely a brawler, and he's got heavy hands. He will mix in his wrestling from time to time. The offensive weapons are good. It's just the defense is the problem with him. This is kind of a big spot for him. Because if he doesn't win this one, he's just kind of, a win one, lose one guy, and he'll continue the trend of losing when he fights up in competition. I know he's got a debuting opponent here, but Christian Leroy Duncan is definitely tough. But yeah, for Dusko Todorovic, definitely a guy I've always thought could use a camp switch. If he touched his defense up a little bit, I think he would be solid. But for Christian Leroy Duncan, this is a guy who has an extensive amateur career, over 20 fights, I believe, with amateur. And yeah, like what is that? 22 fights with amateur, went 17-5, and he is undefeated as a pro, 7-0. And he's definitely fought some solid competition with Cage Warriors, where all of his pro bouts have come from. So that's good to see. Not all pre-UFC tape is created equal, and Cage Warriors is definitely one of the better feeder promotions. It's not like last week where you gotta bet on a guy like who the hell was that guy? Dumas, who's coming out of like Icon FC, fighting cans. At least with Christian Leroy Duncan, we know he's been fighting some higher level competition. He's fought grapplers who have tried to take him down, and they've been unsuccessful. He's got a good sub game and good get ups himself, but he likes to keep it on the feet. On the feet, he's very good, mixes up his attacks very well. He's fast, and he's very good at fighting at range. Just all around, I like the striking from Christian Leroy Duncan. Not a high volume striker necessarily, but more of a precision guy. And yeah, I definitely see why he's the favorite. Definitely coming in with a lot of polish. So we look at the odds here, and I'm gonna go with pretty much. I haven't really seen anybody picking Todorovic, to be honest. I don't look at other people's analysis when making my own analysis. Not that it's not good, when I'm done making my picks, I always go and I see what other people are saying, but I try to just, get like tunnel vision on these. But yeah, Christian Leroy Duncan at -205 is still a good price. I got it at -190, so I was afraid that I was gonna, be too late and the line was gonna be too wide. But -205, I think, is a good price. One other thing you gotta keep in mind is when the UFC matches up a debuting opponent with somebody who's, pretty decent. Like Dusko Todorovic isn't bad. There's worse middleweights on the roster. If they start you off with somebody who's a little bit more established and has like multiple fights with the UFC, a couple wins with the UFC, it tends to signal that the promotion views the debuting fighter quite highly, and I think that's the case with Christian Leroy Duncan. I think they're giving him a spot to pick up a debut win here. I just think he's a cleaner striker, and I think he's prepared for wherever this fight goes. So I like Christian Leroy Duncan at -205, and I did make a bet. So thanks for watching, guys. Share, subscribe, and take it.